Hey everybody, welcome back to Deck Doctors EDH. I'm your host Peter.
And I'm Nick.
And we're here to perform surgery on your decks. Well, we've got a great deck tech for you here. Great couple deck techs. We're going over Ygra, Eater of All. Ygra?
Ygra.
Something like that.
Right off the crack is a 5 mana 6/6, which stays ahead of curve on most creatures, because usually if you have a 5 mana creature, it's about a 5/5.
5/5 lower. And, you know, it's got ward, sacrifice of food. Can't be hard to do.
Except the fact that other creatures are foods.
That sounds like a downside to me.
Not to me, because with the ward of sacrifice food, an opponent has to sacrifice their own creature to be able to hit Ygra. Whenever a food is sacrificed, Ygra gets 2 1/1 counters. I'm going to go off a little bit on left field here. I'm going to go based off treasures.
All right, treasures. That doesn't say treasure on Ygra anywhere.
It does not. But artifact sacrifice, it becomes a kind of fun synergy here. Okay. The reason why I picked this is it's not really an expected deck for the color scheme. Typically, when you hear treasure, you think of Rakdos. You think of what's the 3-color one with the blue?
With the blue.
With the blue, the red.
Rakdos with blue.
Yeah.
Grixis.
That's it. Thank you. Ramp is built into the theme. So typically when you do ramp, personally, I like 10 to 15 pieces of ramp to really fuel your deck into what you want to do.
Yeah, I think 10 to 15 is probably a pretty good place to be. 15 being on the higher end. If your ramp fits into the theme of your deck, the higher you go, probably the better.
Some of the things that I included in this deck are Bootlegger Stash, heck, lands equal treasure, City of Death, a 3-mana saga with chapter 1 being create a treasure token, and then sagas 2 through 6 are create a copy of a token. So basically you're getting 6 turns of pure treasure. Gallagreeters. Everyone's playing creatures. You're playing creatures, I'm playing creatures, but when your creatures enter the battlefield, how awesome would it be to make a treasure?
Sounds pretty good.
Tireless Provisioner. When a land enters the battlefield, create a treasure token.
Seems like you've got a treasure theme.
A little bit. And
okay.
How about this one? This one was one of my favorite ones to find. Nuka Cola vending machine.
That's when you sacrifice a food, you get a treasure token.
Treasures. There you go.
And guess what all your creatures are?
Foods.
They're foods.
They're foods. So whenever one of your opponents says, I don't want that creature anymore, you just go, I'm gonna sack it. Create a treasure. Now what do you do with all this treasure? Clearly you're making a metric butt ton of treasure. So you can ramp into bigger things, such as Old Gnawbone, Shard of the Void Dragon, Blood Money, Marionette Master, Disciple of the Vault. We also have Marionette Apprentice, which is basically a mini version of Marionette Masters. Mazarek, Crowl Death Priest, Mirkwood Bats, Nadir's Nightblade. What are your thoughts on some of these synergies here?
It's looking pretty good. I think, you know, when you're getting all these treasures, I mean, you're ramping like crazy. You've got tons of mana. And it's not just mana that's going to get you bigger things. It's mana that's going to end up killing your opponents.
Also, in this deck build I did a little bit of a token sub-theme. Now, we're not talking about, like, 1 card, 1 token. I'm talking about recurring tokens that keep on being created throughout the game. We have Arasta of the Endless Web, Peregrine Took, Academy Manufactor. You gotta have Scoot Swarm. You gotta have Doubling Season and Parallel Lives. We have Compy Swarm. Whenever a creature dies on your turn, during your end step, you create a token copy of Compy Swarm. Springheart Nantuko. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, if Springheart Nantuko is bestowed onto something, you may pay green and 1 and create a copy of whatever Springheart Nantuko is bestowed to. However, if it is not bestowed, you create a 1/1 insect. All right, let's talk about some removal things here.
You know what's great about this deck? Anything that says destroy an artifact now says destroy a creature too.
So I started over here with the Crack Open, Crumble, Nature's Claim, Oxidize. We were discussing combos earlier, and I discovered this tasty little treat of a combo. Ashnod's Altar plus Experimental Confectioner plus Ygra equals a lot of value.
He's broken Ashnod's Altar.
Shocking.
Who'd have thought?
So Ashnod's Altar is sacrifice a creature, create 2 colorless mana. Experimental Confectioner reads, Whenever a food token is sacrificed, create a 1/1 black rat. You get infinite mana off of this loop. Infinite colorless mana. Torment of Hellfire.
Uh-oh.
You got infinite ETBs. Altar of the Brood.
Altar of the Brood.
That reads, whenever a permanent enters your battlefield, each opponent mills 1 card.
That seems like they would mill out their deck.
Yep, that's the point. Also, you have infinite death triggers. Infinitely large Feral Ghoul. But did you know that when Feral Ghoul dies, each opponent gets a rad counter for how large Feral Ghoul was? And then on top of it, Pitiless Plunder, because why not? Infinite treasures. Now, doubling tokens was mentioned earlier, but how about double mana? All right, so we said we don't need any doubling season. We already are making enough tokens. We already have enough treasures. What do we need more tokens for? So we said, we'll get rid of that and put in Zendikar Resurgent. Tap it and you add an additional mana, and whenever you cast a creature spell,
Draw a card.
draw a card. Parallel Lives, let's take that out for a Beast Whisperer. Oh, wait.
More card draw?
I think so.
More card draw.
So,
Speaking of drawing cards, you know what time it is?
Cracking
Cracking
packs. Oh, go for it, Pete. Let's see what you got going
All
on
right.
today.
So, as always, a random commenter, a random subscriber will win these packs, and we will ship them out to you. First pack, we have a Dream Drinker Vampire. We have Nyxborn Unicorn. We have Galvanic Discharge. Electrozoa. We have Foul Strike. Sheltering Landscape. Brain Surge. All right. Titan's Vanguard. Etched Slip. Revitalizing Repast. Worn Power Stone.
Ooh.
And a dirty card, Winter Moon. Foil, Nightshade Dryad. A Swamp, and an art card.
An Expanding Ooze. A Fetid Garantula. Hexgold Slith. Fanged Flames. Aetherspike, which has won me a few sealed things in Arena, countering that big spell. A Sneaky Snacker. Warped Tusker. Quest for Necropolis. Griff Elemental. Razorgrass Ambush. Galvanic Discharge. Deep Analysis. And Guide of Souls. Scurrilous Century Foil. And your art card. Like, comment, subscribe, and these 2 packs could be one of yours.
For my theme, I've gone with Edicts. So, Edicts are cards or abilities that make your opponents sacrifice creatures. Now, as we all know, Ygra makes all your opponent's creatures foods. So whenever they sacrifice a food, Ygra gets 2 +1/+1 counters. So we're going to start with a Cursed Marauder. When it ETBs, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. A classic Fleshbag Marauder. Got Plague Crafter. It's Fleshbag Marauder, but better. ETB, everybody sacrifices a creature. Next one we've got is Abyssal Gatekeeper, which isn't an ETB, it's a dice trigger. So we want to be able to kill it, sacrifice it, get some value out of it, and when it dies, each opponent is going to sacrifice a creature they control. We've got Sheoldred. We're talking about the new Sheoldred, the flipping saga Sheoldred. It does what we want it to do.
I actually have a mono black deck based off of this commander, and when I bring it to the table, nobody likes playing.
Then next we've got Wasteland Raider. You can get 2 of them if you squat it. What's better than a creature-based edict? A creature-based edict that's repeatable. We've got Eradicator Valkyrie. It has lifelink, flying, hexproof from planeswalkers. It has boast for 1 and a black. So you sacrifice a creature, and each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Rankle, Master of Pranks, flying, haste. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, I get to choose any number of the 3 abilities. The one we're going after is everybody sacrifices a creature. We've got Kuon Ogre Ascendant. So Kuon Ogre Ascendant says at the end of your turn, if 3 or more creatures were put into a graveyard from the battlefield, flip Kuon. And he flips into an enchantment that says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, they sacrifice a creature.
Wow. So, what is the original CMC on Kuon?
The original CMC on Kuon is black, black, black.
Okay. So, in total, a black, 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 and 6, assuming you have to sacrifice your own things, you're gaining 6 life. Everybody has to sacrifice something, and it's on an enchantment. I may take that over Shieldred.
The Apocalypse.
Yes.
You know what? Shieldred the Apocalypse is not in this deck. I considered it. It's a great ad. If you want to play it, you should play it. I just did not. Let's see. Let's go on to spells. You know what? Spells work for edicts too. You've got Dance Macabre. Not only is everybody sacrificing creatures, you're getting one back. If you roll a 15 or higher, you return 2 creatures.
That seems like great value. What is the CMC on that?
The CMC on that is 5. So it's a little bit high, but it is doing the thing that we want to do. Next one we have is Innocent Blood. Next one is Rankle's Prank. It's Rankle. It's Rankle on a sorcery. Rise of the Witch King. So Rise of the Witch King is each player sacrifices a creature. If I sacrifice a creature this way, I may return another permanent card from my graveyard to the battlefield. Make an example. Now this one is pretty spicy. 3 and a black, each opponent separates creatures they control into 2 piles. And then for each opponent, you choose one of those piles and they sacrifice all the creatures in that pile. Next card I've got on my list is Season of Lost. It's a new card from Bloomburrow. It costs 3 black, black. When you cast it, you get to choose 5 paws worth of modes on the card, and you can choose the same one multiple times. So the first mode is for 1 paw, each player sacrifices a creature. For 2 paws, you get to draw a card for each creature put into your graveyard this turn. And then for 3 paws, each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of creatures in your graveyard. Now, the way that this works is each one of those is going to happen in order. So say you choose 3 of the first mode, have each player sacrifice 3 creatures, and then you choose the second mode once, you're going to draw 3 cards for the 3 creatures that you sacrificed on top of any of the other creatures that went into your graveyard this turn. Our next card is Virtus's Maneuver. So Virtus's Maneuver says for each player you get to choose friend or foe. Each friend gets to put a creature from their graveyard into their hand. And each foe, guess what? They sacrifice a creature. We're doing edicts.
Good thing we're friends, Pete. Good thing we're friends.
You wish. My next card that I put into the deck, I honestly didn't think I was ever going to find a good home for this card. It's Flare of Malice. It's one of the new Flare cycles. So, Flare of Malice, you may sacrifice a non-token black creature instead of paying its mana cost. Its mana cost is 2 black, black, and it's an instant. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker with the greatest mana value among creatures or planeswalkers they control. Shieldred's Edict, Soul Shatter, Sat's Will, Dictate of Erebos, and Grave Pact. Because So that pretty much covers our main theme of the deck, which is just Edict effects. We've got a couple sub-themes to go over. We've got token generation, and we've got bringing them back from the graveyard. We've already touched on a few of those cards already, but we're going to go into ones that kind of lean into that a little bit more. Dice triggers. We've got Doom Dissenter, Nightmare Shepherd, Pawn of Ulamog, Sifter of Skulls, Termagant Swarm, Underseller Mike and Ike. Underseller Mike and Ike.
Whoa. Underseller My Mechanic.
Oh. Underseller My Mechanic. Underseller Myconid says whenever it enters the battlefield or dies, you get to create a 1/1 green sapperwing creature token. We've got Creekwood Liege, Awakening Zone, Bitter Blossom from Beyond, Endrick Sar, Master Breeder.
Can we rewind really quick? What was that card called again?
Master Breeder?
I thought you said something completely different.
Oh, okay. The last one is Field of the Dead. It's free real estate. And it's free zombies.
Something also to remember about Field of the Dead is they need to be 7 different names on lands. So don't think that we can throw Field of the Dead into any deck. Typically, 2 colors or more is better for a Field of the Dead
Sure
deck.
is. And in this deck, in this particular build of the deck, every single land has a different name. So we only have 4 basics. We have a swamp, we have a forest, we have a snow-covered swamp, and a snow-covered forest. And Field of the Dead sees those as 4 different names. So our next sub-theme, if you will call it that, is Bring 'em Back. We're going to be bringing things back from the graveyard because we're going to be sacking lots of things. And let's get them back. Let's get more value. Let's reuse, recycle. So the first card that we've got on this list is Agadeem's Awakening. So on the back side of the card, it's a black mana source. So if you don't have the mana to cast it, or if you're needing to hit your land drops, it's there for that. But it's also got X black, 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 and it says return any number of target creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield with different converted mana cost X or less. Balaged Sanctuary, again, a land on the backside, so if you're missing your land drops and you need your lands, you got it there. But it's also 2 and a green and return target card from your graveyard to your hand, so bring it back. Next card in the Bring 'em Back section is Sheoldred. We've already been over Sheoldred a little bit, but let's go over the back half of Sheoldred, because she says when at her first saga, you get to destroy a target creature or planeswalker for each opponent. Next chapter in the saga is each opponent is going to discard 3 cards, brutal, and mill 3 cards. And then the last chapter is you're going to return all creatures from the graveyard to the battlefield under your control. You're going to exile the saga and return it to the battlefield as Sheoldred. Rise of the Dark Realms. You're just going to put all creatures from the graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. The last card in the Bring 'em Back category is Takenuma Abandoned Mire. Takenuma Abandoned Mire is a land, but it has the channel ability, and channel for 3 and a black. You are going to discard it and mill 3 cards, and then you're going to return a creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. And that channel ability costs 1 less for each legendary creature you control. Sack outlets. We want sack outlets because we want to be getting rid of things. We've got a lot of Edict effects, so, you know, having sack outlets isn't super important, but we do want to have some in there. So the ones that I chose to go with was Viscera, Phyrexian Tower. Our first card in card draw is Liliana, Dreadhorde General. Then we have Grim Haruspects, Smothering Abomination, Guardian Project, Viridian Revel, Castle Lochthwain. Next thing we have is Removal, Cankerbloom, Caustic Caterpillar, Outland Liberator, Raksage, Thrashing Brontodon, Collective Resistance, Nature's Claim, Return to Nature, Boseiju Who Endures. Next thing we have is Ramp. And now Ramp, we have, to start us off, we have Flare of Cultivation. What a card this is. Like, I absolutely love this. Any green creature-based deck that wants to ramp should be running this card. You can either pay the mana cost 2 green, or you can sacrifice a creature, and then you get to go search for 2 basic land cards, put 1 into your hand, and 1 onto the battlefield tap. Nature's Lore, go get a forest, put it on the battlefield. 3 visits, same card. Sky Shroud Claim, go find 2 forests and put them onto the battlefield. Our next category is board wipes. Now, board wipes are pretty important in most decks, but if you can find one-sided board wipes, that's even better. We've got some one-sided-ish board wipes. Our first one is Bane of Progress. So Bane of Progress is a creature for 4 green, and when Bane of Progress enters the battlefield, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Seeds of Innocence, it's the same thing. Toxic Deluge. As we discussed before, we have Protection. The Commander is the linchpin to this deck, and we want to protect Ygra. So we're going to do that with several different cards. We're going to start with Heroic Intervention. All your permanents get hexproof and indestructible till end of turn at instant speed. The next card is Malakir Rebirth. So that's an MDFC, so if you need the land, you got the land. Then we have Tamio's Safekeeping, hexproof, indestructible. Tyvar Stand, pretty much the same card. And then we have Plaza of Heroes, which is just protection on a land. Our last little section here is Evasion. So one of the things that Ygra does not have is Evasion. Has no way to get around creatures if there are creatures on the battlefield. First one we have is Silver Shroud Costume. And then we also want to put in Whisper Silk Cloak, which is the not instant speed Silver Shroud costume. So it's going to give your creature Shroud and Shroud and cannot be blocked. Next one is Rogue's Passage. And the last one is Shizo's Death's Storehouse. So you can give your creature Fear. So our win cons, like we said, it's the Commander. You need to protect it. You need to wipe everybody else's boards. And then you need to give it Evasion. So all of our deck lists are going to be in the description below. We have our main deck lists, which is the deck list that we've gone over here. And then we also have our budget options. So you're going to see in those decks where we've trimmed the fat a little bit, and then the budget cards that we want to swap in there. I was able to get my budget deck under $100, so I think that still remains pretty powerful.
So my budget deck list did not make it under $100, but it landed at about the $275 range.
Move this man!
Maybe a little bit pricey for a new player, but definitely a fun build to consider for the future.
All right, well, with that, we've been the Deck Doctors. Thanks for coming.
Don't forget to follow us on all social medias at Deck Doctors EDH. I'm Nick.
And I'm Peter. We're the Deck Doctors.
See ya.